Hi, I'm Nicole Gauthier.
And I'm April Lamb.
And today we're going to discuss cultural practices for disease management. And cultural practices are the implemented practices that we take that are not fungicide based.
One cultural practice that is really important when you are planning your high tunnel is what cultivars you're going to use. Now, there are no plants that are completely resistant, but what you want to do is look for plants that are tolerant, specifically to soil-borne diseases and other issues that will crop up in high tunnels. Plant disease history is going to be so critical to know for your high tunnel. So when you're choosing your different cultivars, you can pick the best ones to grow with whatever problems you've been dealing with in the past.
The first cultural practice to consider when planting tomatoes in high tunnels is crop rotation. So a general rule of thumb is a 3-year rotation. And in this case, solanaceous crops will be planted only 1 year out of every 3. One exception is the case of certain soil-borne diseases such as fusarium wilt or timber rot. And in that case, the rotation would be much longer.
Tillage is really important when you are prepping your site before putting any plants or mulches in. So what tillage is going to do is break up your soil, make it a little bit more loose so that plants will have an easier time getting established and growing out their roots. But also from a pathogen perspective, when you till, you're burying all of the debris and different propagules, called sclerotia, that are going to be persisting in the soil and may infect your crops. You're also breaking the life cycle of overwintering pathogens that may be on weeds or other things in the soil. So tillage is really, really important. Another important part of prepping your high tunnel for planting is putting down some kind of mulch. Now these can be plastic, weave like this one, or other organic mulches. Now mulches are extremely helpful because they will prevent splashing from irrigation and they also prevent weeds from coming up. You can see here that only on the sides of this high tunnel are the weeds able to come up. Now weeds can act as overwintering hosts that carry pathogens to the plants that you have in your high tunnel. So you really want to avoid having weeds. So mulches will really help keep those weeds down and you will have to put in less labor to take the weeds out.
Air circulation is a vital part of managing diseases using cultural practices. As a rule of thumb, 70% relative humidity is our threshold. Any humidity above 70% is usually conducive for fungal and bacterial pathogens to infect and to persist, and anything below 70% is generally safe. So as a rule, I like to see humidity meters in every high tunnel. Other ways to increase air circulation are row spacing, plant spacing, and of course using side walls and end walls for exchanging air and to help move air. When we move air, we're exchanging high humidity air and high moisture air for a bit drier air. So the key always is air circulation, and that's our way to manage moisture.
Something important to keep in mind the entire time that you're dealing with high tunnel plants is sanitation. Now you have worker sanitation and also plant sanitation. Worker sanitation is extremely important, so workers need to be aware that they need to clean their tools and their boots and any other things that could come into contact with plants because debris and mud can carry pathogens. Plant sanitation includes pruning your tomatoes or other plants in the high tunnel onto carts or tarps, so you're not leaving any debris that could carry pathogens. And it also includes clean picking your plants. In the case of tomatoes, that would mean every time you come to harvest, you take everything off of the plants, not leaving anything that looks rotten or could drop off of the plants and carry disease. Plant sanitation also includes roguing your plants, and that means taking out dead, dying, or diseased plants. In this case, we're going to be looking at this tomato here that has timber rot. You want to pull this plant out before it can spread disease to all of the other plants and also before the fungus can leave propagules in the soil that will then persist until the next season.
It is also important to avoid wounding plants. When we wound plants, which includes physical damage, pruning, etc., we create open doors for pathogen propagules to enter plants. So reducing and avoiding wounding as much as possible. And that means being careful when tying plants, and when we prune, make a clean, sharp cut. Regular scouting is a vital part of maintaining a high tunnel environment. Regular scouting, going through entire tunnels, looking not just at leaves, but entire plants, including at the base. So taking notes regularly, what you see, what's right, what's wrong, what's working, and what's not. Sometimes it's helpful to have a hand lens or jeweler's loupe in order to take a closer look at problematic areas such as symptoms and signs. Some growers may also choose to have instead a magnifying glass so that it may be easier to use. Scouting notes should be kept regularly, organized, so that you can refer back to them. And these scouting notes would be added to any kind of spray schedules, diagnostic reports, cultivars, fertilization regimes, so they all go together in a solid record so that you can refer back to from week to week or from season to season.
Check the link below to look at the wealth of other resources that we have, including IPM scouting guides, organic spray guides, regular spray guides, and cultural calendars.